And I'm going to try to keep everybody muted throughout it, because if there's like background noise or anything, the camera jumps to you and it gets really distracting with this many people. So we'll try to keep it muted. And what we're going to do is I'm going to present probably 20 minutes of information. Ken is going to do the same. And then we're going to open it up to questions and answers for like the last hour and 10 minutes or so. And I would like everybody to save their questions if they could for that, so that we're not jumping all around in the beginning. So if you have a question about something that we're discussing, certainly, jot it down on a notepad and ask it during that time period, if you could. One of the best ways to ask a question is to you can raise your hand, which we're going to try to keep an eye on. It's a little confusing. It gets hard if everybody's speaking out with this many people. We have 75 people on right now, so it'll get tough. So try to raise your hand. If we don't see it, certainly try to reach out to us. We'll try to do it in an organized fashion. Again, we're all learning a little bit here on what's going to work the best. So.
Hey, Matt, not to interrupt you, but can we also use the chat function to ask questions as well?
Yes, definitely. And use the chat function. Yep. I actually had that written down and I didn't note it. So thank you, Taylor. Okay. That's great. Use the chat function for those of you that know how to do it. For those, if anybody's really struggling with this, which I know some of you are, if you have a question, write it down and then call me after the meeting on my cell phone if you want, or email me. That's always available to anyone, anytime, obviously. So I'm not going to go crawl in a hole and disappear after this. So as much as you'd like me to.
We're glad to hear you're not.
Yeah. So some people might not be, but no, definitely. Like I said, if you're struggling with the chat function or you don't like this format, email or call me. That's, like I said, call me after the meeting. I don't care. And while it's fresh in your head, for anybody that needs it, my cell 7930929. So please call that whenever there's questions. Again, after the meeting is fine. So I guess I'll sort of get into the meeting here. Does anybody have a dying question right off the bat before I get into my stuff? I see there's some hands raised. I just want to make sure. I think people probably maybe had questions earlier, and so I don't think the hand automatically disappears. So that's where it gets really confusing. But and just real quick, for those that want to ask a question at the end, on my computer, it's down at the bottom. It's under reactions. There's a little smiley face. You can just click on that, and it says raise hand, and you can click on that. Do you have a question? Did Sean Selby, did you have a question, or was it from earlier?
No, I can't. I don't know how it got on there, and I can't make it go away. So
okay,
you can make
I figured.
It away.
All right, that's fine. I just want to make sure I saw it and somebody pointed it out. So, like I said, we got a couple people trying to watch the chat function, so we're trying in the hand raising thing. So, all right. So what I'm going to do is call the screen share here. I'm just going to, for a lot of you, this is going to be repeat, but for some, it'll be new. I'm going to cover the VAST grant and aid programs. So we basically have 3 grant and aid programs. We have equipment, construction, and debrushing. I'm going to show you on the website. All the forms are there. So I get on the right thing here. Oh, that's not what I want. Hang on. Still do it here. All right. So everybody should be able to see my screen now. So all of these forms, the construction, the brushing, and equipment grant and aid, are available on the VAST website. It's under the forms tab right here. If you click on that, you're going to find under trails applications. So we've got equipment. So the equipment I'm going to talk about first because that's the one that is due the soonest. So it's going to be a quick rundown. I'm not getting into the weeds on any of this, but the equipment grant and aid application is for purchase or repair of grooming equipment, which is power units and drags. The clubs are eligible for up to 60% of the net purchase price for power units, and it's capped at a certain figure, which is based on the grooming weeks in your contract. At 50% reimbursement of the net purchase price for drags, up to 50%. Sometimes we do scale it back a bit to spread the money out for more grants if we need to. Capital repairs are a maximum of 50% of allowable costs. So we don't include like routine maintenance and, you know, paint and glass, things like that. We'll cover 50% of track repairs on equipment that's 10 years old or older. And for anybody that receives an equipment grant of any sort, there's a lien placed on all equipment. Basically what that means is the club or contractor that received the grant will have to groom with that equipment for a certain number of years before they can apply for another grant or sell the equipment. Hang on, I'm going to jump off now. I see got a couple people in the waiting room here. I'll let some people in. Let's see. Here, I think they're all in now. All right.
Yeah,
So
I was switching over from my phone to my computer. Thank you.
okay. Yeah, and for those that just jumped in, if you can hear me, hopefully by now, if you want to type in your name and then your club name in place of your name on the screen, that helps us know who's here and pull a report when we're done the meeting to know who attended. So, like I said, you have a lien on equipment if you receive a grant. And there's also, like I said, there's a number of other policies applying to equipment. I'm not going to get into the weeds right now because it would be really boring for everyone. And ultimately, it's all in the trail policy manual. Or if you look at this equipment grant and aid application, if you click on it, and you download it to your computer, there's a policy section on it, and it has all the policies in there for your reading pleasure. So the next grant aid application I'm going to cover is construction. That's right here on the site. That's for any trail work projects, trail relocations, bridge repairs, anything trail related like that. Basically, the information that's on that form is the club name, contact information, the description of the project, the location, itemized costs, then the total cost, and then any permits that you need for it. It also needs to be signed by the county trail coordinator, which each of your counties has a county trail coordinator. I'm sure you all know who they are. They're supposed to sign that application before it comes in. Landowner permission forms are required from all landowners involved in the project. Those are right here. If you want to do it that way, that is a fillable PDF, which with COVID, it's obviously a nice way to reach out to landowners. There's also, as it says here, carbon copies available from us. If you need some, let us know. We'll mail some out to you. If you'd like the carbon copy where the club keeps one, the landowner keeps one, and you send one back to us. For any bridge projects, we should have a bridge agreement form. Those are here. Again, carbon copies are available at the VAST office. I believe we will be changing these forms a little bit. I know some of you that are on have run into little issues with landowners who own a bridge and different things. So we're going to be working to change this. So there'll be an updated form on here at some point. But we always try to keep the most up-to-date forms on here. So if it's on here, that's the one we're using until we change it. So, and just to note, For the construction application, we're hoping to move into an online type format like we did for the financial analysis this year for the construction grant and aid application. Like I said, we're just starting to build it right now, so I'm sure we're going to receive the paper form, and that will be fine for this year. But I think down the road, we're going to look to go more of this route because it really works a lot better overall for a number of reasons, which I won't get into, but it's a lot nicer when the data's all there and I'm not trying to read writing for one. Not that everybody has messy writing, but some people do. Or we get paperwork that, I don't know, it looks like, somebody may have been murdered on it. I don't know. It's hard to read with like stains and I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I wonder what happened here. It'd be a good story. This paper could talk, but so yeah, and I think the other forms are gonna sort of go that direction too. I know some of you are probably not happy about that, but that's the direction we're headed. The brushing application is also here. That is for brushing back the trails with a piece of equipment. Doesn't include handwork, just for hiring a bush hog or preferably a sidearm mower that can really get out there and get stuff. Also on the debrushing grant aid application, new a couple of years ago, we will cover up to 50% of a brush bar for a drag if a club wants to purchase one as well. Now, that doesn't mean every club can get one. We only can use a percentage of the brushing budget each year for brush bars so that we can help clubs do mechanized removal of brush too. So, and again, there's a lot of policies involved with the brushing too. But again, it's in the trail policy manual, or if you download the application, it's in the procedures section in the back. So just some general grant aid information. It's important to fill out the applications thoroughly, as much information as you can put on there. Have the county trail coordinator sign it. Get quotes from contractors or from equipment dealers for any equipment grants. Communication is a big key. You can put little notes in there about different things. It's helpful to me because there's a lot of projects coming in. I kind of know what's going on, and most of you are really good about communicating. So once I get all the projects in, I review them and I send out an acknowledgement form back to all the clubs for each project. And on that form, it tells you whether the project was approved, how much funding I approved for it, and if I'm missing any paperwork, and it indicates what's missing for paperwork. Oftentimes, I'll send the missing paperwork back with it. Like if you're missing a permission form, I'll send you a permission form so you have it. I try to do that. Once in a while, I might miss one. I also send back a trail request for reimbursement form, which is purple colored form. So once the project is completed, the trail request for reimbursement, the purple form, should be filled out. All the receipts should be attached to it, and the county trail coordinator should sign that before it comes back to me. Now, if I was missing paperwork on the acknowledgement form when I sent it out, I won't pay the project. I still need permission forms and all that. Even if you send me the trail request for reimbursement, I'm still not going to pay the project until I have all the permission forms and all that. So just keep that in mind. Try to send them all together if you can. The trail request for reimbursement, as I said, also requires the county trail coordinator's signature. So it's important to get that. And again, all of these policies are in the trail policy manual, which is right down here on our website. If you want to look at that, it's a pretty lengthy document. If anybody would like one printed off and sent to them in the mail or have it emailed to them, whatever you want, just please let us know. So the deadlines for all of these applications, this year, it's Tuesday, June 1st for the equipment grant aid applications, and Wednesday, June 30th for construction grant aid and debrushing grant aid. And that means they need to be submitted by then, not in the mail or postmarked. I need to have them by those dates. So if you're actually mailing them with the way the mails run this year, you probably want to mail them like a week ahead of that time. Email is acceptable. A lot of them are emailed to me, and that's fine. If we go online with the construction applications, hopefully a lot of them are going to be submitted that way, ideally, and we're not dealing with the paperwork back and forth and all that. So one other item I wanted to mention to anyone, as some of you know this, we have the special May Trails Committee meeting coming up. And anybody that wants to have additional mileage added to their grooming contract, upgrade their grooming contract, or build new trail, and that doesn't include a trail relocation. I'm talking like a new trail. You want to build a trail to, McDonald's or something, and it's going to cost construction funds. That needs to be approved by the Trails Committee and the board. So we have that meeting for the Trails Committee in May before we build a budget, so we know what kind of costs we're looking at. So I would need, basically it needs to be, any of that stuff needs to be approved by your county. And then you need to send us a formal request by Monday, May 10th to be put on the Trails Committee agenda. And that Trails Committee meeting will be Monday, May 17th. And somebody from the club would need to be in attendance at that meeting. It'll be a Zoom meeting like this, but somebody would need to be in attendance to discuss, why they need the trail or why they need to upgrade, or, why they're trying to do what they're trying to do. And then the Trails Committee will vote, and then the board. So just a quick reminder on that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Back. The next thing I just wanted to cover quickly is some of the grooming, which again, a lot of you already know this. You understand the grooming contracts, but I'm just going to give a quick rundown. Contracts are, the dollar amount on the contracts is based on the number of grooming weeks your club has, multiplied by the rate of pay, multiplied by your contract mileage, and multiplied by 2 grooms per week. That's what gives you your cap. The subsidy is then based off from that cap as well. The subsidy is for a low snow winter. It's a guaranteed amount of money to make your payment on your groomer. So the contracts guarantee that we'll pay for grooming 2 times a week. So it's important for clubs to manage contracts. We do pay sometimes for grooming certain trails more often than twice a week if the club can bank the mileage earlier in the season and groom. A lot of times early on, there's not a lot of snow, so you're grooming less. So you can bank that mileage and use it later on mid-season when there's heavier snow. Sometimes it's hard to manage all that with traffic and things, but our contracts guarantee we pay twice a week. And it doesn't mean clubs can't groom more if they want to. We're just saying we are not going to guarantee we're going to pay for it. So it's fine if clubs want to groom more, that's okay. Members like it. So in the past, a lot of you are familiar with our log sheets that we've required weekly for grooming. And we're hoping to move to the GPS units and the groomers for all class 1, 2, and 3 groomers next year. So we would not have log sheets submitted to us. However, I'm going to highly encourage clubs to keep the log sheets. So if there is a malfunction with the GPS, we're hoping to eliminate, I won't say eliminate, limit the number of issues we have with them. We had quite a few this year. I think we have a lot of stuff fixed and we have a pretty good idea moving forward, and it should be better. But clubs should keep a log of their own in case that does happen. And a lot of you write down how much fuel you use, things like that, that we don't require, on the log sheets for us. So it's good for the club to have those records as well. So we're hoping to move to the GPS. Class 4 machines, you would still need to do the log sheets. We're still trying to figure out how we want to handle that. And I think down the road, we'll get a better handle on the class 4 contracts. We don't have many of them. So we may, in fact, put GPS units in those too. I'm not sure. But for now, it's class 1, 2, and 3. Class 4s, you're still doing logs. At the end of the season, we require the grooming financial analysis, which a lot of you are working on right now or have recently submitted. It's important to have accurate information on that. And especially, I need club serial numbers and everything too, because we're linking the forms that you submit online now to each machine. And this is how we track the costs and kind of compare it to what we're paying to see overall where we're at. If we're, some clubs have a lot of expenses. Obviously, some years we're not paying enough. Other years it's a little better. But this is sort of our gauge. So good information is important. And I just wanted to note just a little fact or figure for everyone. The grooming is our largest line item in our budget every year. And I think this year we're looking at almost $1.5 million in grooming we're going to pay out. It was a pretty good winter in places that sometimes it's not, where there's lower weekly averages. A lot of those clubs groomed quite a few weeks this year, and it was decent while it was here. So, and that figure is without paying anybody over their cap. So if we added in the cap figure, it's probably $40,000 more roughly, or more. So just a little fact there. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions about any of this stuff, email or phone call, and just please reach out. So I'm going to hand this over to Ken now and let him do his little piece.
Let's see if it'll let me share my screen. You'll have to allow me. Oh, there you go. I'm the host now.
There we go. It took me a while to find your name way down in this list.
Okay. All right, so back to the VAST website, the forms page. I'm just going to cover some quick things about signs, and then a few other sort of resources we have for trail planning, trail information, that sort of thing. But I get quite a few questions about what signs we have available. So I just want to remind everybody that this, on the forms page here, the guidelines for snowmobile trail signing and placement. If you open up that PDF and go down to the standard trail sign list, we actually have a picture of every single sign that we have available. So that can help you figure out what to use. We try to cover everything. I know it's changed over the years before my time of different signs that were available. Things come and go, but you should be able to cover just about any situation with the signs that are shown here. We do have a few that I need to update and get onto there. So for example, I'm stocking these thank you landowner signs. Some clubs like to put their own logo on that, so we charge you the full cost if you do that as a custom sign, but I try to keep some of these in stock. We have these no cross-country skier ones. For some reason, those aren't on the form or anything, but I have a big pile of them. We have this your GPS is wrong sign that the safety committee came up with this year. Trying to keep cars from driving down the trails. So a few things like this come available, and I'll try to put them into that signing list so you'll see them. Another place where you basically get a list of every sign is just the order form. So that's a PDF here. Open that up. Oh, that's the intersection, just a regular trail sign. Order is an Excel spreadsheet, sorry. So we'll do the math for you. Do the math for me so I know how much to bill you. Again, it's just a list of every single sign. It tells you what the price will be. The stock signs, VAST pays half of the cost. So if you enter it in this Excel spreadsheet, it'll do the math down here. You can see it says 50% payable. The special order signs here, we're charging the full cost. So if you work with me and do a special order with the sign shop, you do the full cost. This is actually discounted slightly. That GPS is wrong. We're we're doing a partial cost share on that. So that's why it's already discounted in that list. You see a couple free ones here, these posters that we have, the hands-on for safety. Hopefully we won't need the COVID posters next year. So we can get out of here. Back to the guidelines, we have a few special sign programs. The most recent one that's come up are the road crossing signs. So we encourage you to put these on the post with your stop signs, so riders can know what road they're crossing. If they need to call 911, they can tell them the information on this little green sign and know where to get to them. These cost the club about $1.25 each, and they come from corrections, and so they would be shipped directly to you. Another special program we have are the junction signs. That's been going on for a while, but still a lot of clubs might not have those. So there's this template. It covers all the required information for the junctions. It gets printed on one big aluminum sign. It looks nice. I think we have a photo of them in use here. I'm sure you've seen them out on the trails. So a set like this, 2 one-sided signs and 1 two-sided sign, ends up costing the club about $110, just to help you gauge that. That's after VAST pays some of the cost. They can be done on plastic as well. It's a little bit cheaper. You can still do them this style with all the little piecemeal signs, put together the information. So those are still available as well if you're just maintaining what you already have. Another useful thing here is the signing supplement. It's a front and back page, has little diagrams of the most basic trail signing situations, helps you remember what to do with that. A few things are required, most things are suggestions. So intersection sign information is required. You need to have the intersections labeled and let people know what their next junction is. Bridges need to have hazard markers and bridge ahead signs. It's up to you to decide which corners need arrows in them and that sort of thing. But if the corner does need an arrow, it should be placed ahead of the corner so it's warning the riders. And all of that sort of information is available in the guidelines. It's typed up. There's information about placement of the signs, speeds of travel, all that sort of information. The road crossing signs, back to those, that's just a Word document. It'll open here. So you just list the name of the road, the town, and the trail. Tell us how many you need. And each one will have the club on it as well. Let's see, where am I at? So a couple other resources back to some of what Matt was talking about with the construction grants coming up, especially if you're planning a new trail. We have links in here, trail policy and training resources. One thing that's available is the ANR Atlas. So the Agency of Natural Resources puts together this interactive online map you can use. It has tons of information. This link here is a little PDF that I made, and it explains how to choose layers on the map. How to filter the trails, so you're just seeing vast trails. You can upload your own trail line, like if you take a breadcrumb with the VAST app, you can upload it onto there. And this map is handy for, you can see it has property lines, so most towns in Vermont have their properties uploaded onto here. If you click on a property, you can get the span number at least. You might get the landowner name. This long link will open up the atlas with already a few layers loaded. So you can see we're looking at the vast office in Berlin Pond here. And all the green are what's called the wetlands advisory layer. So there might be a wetland there. The pink are all of the trails that the 911 service knows about. So if you come to this and the trails aren't showing yet, you can just search for trails in the filter here. And you see it says E911 trails, and turn that on. That'll show all the trails in the state. It doesn't have our junctions. Try to click on one here. It just wants to show me the property boundaries. So that trail doesn't have a name because it's secondary. I think they do have, yeah, they have the route numbers at least. So it's not as much information as you might see on our interactive trail map, but at least they're there. They can help you plan. You can also turn on rare plants. You can turn on deer yards. Anything you might want to avoid if you're dealing with permitting or planning a new trail. These little frogs are vernal pools, I think. Another thing on here, I don't know if Eric Engstrom is with us, but there's this YouTube link. Of course, there's going to be an ad. So this is an hour-long tutorial of how to use that map. And it's actually done by a snowmobiler, and he uses an example of using a trail to figure out a list of landowners. So that's just one thing you can do with this. But just a good resource to know about. All right. Something new I just added today. The urban forestry community and urban forestry folks reached out to us and hoped we would show you this information. They're concerned about emerald ash borer, which many of you have probably heard about, hemlock woolly adelgid, and Asian longhorn beetle. So just they're asking for help to keep an eye out for these things. So if you take a look at this, keep an eye out when you're in the woods. If you see signs of these, there are links to reporting it to those folks so they can follow up on that. I think that's it on signs. A little bit on permitting. There's always a chance that you might need a permit, especially if you're doing a bridge. So it's really worthwhile to talk to me and Matt about that, or you can do and just find a permit specialist. So every town, they'll have a person that you can contact. You tell them about what you're doing and they can help you figure out which permits you might need and who to contact about that. Might seem like a lot of red tape and hoops to jump through, but doing that ahead of time, if you're doing a big project, moving a lot of dirt, working in a stream, anything like that, taking care of that ahead of time can really save headaches later on. So just a plug for permitting. And then I just have a couple of announcements about our map. So we'll be doing a new map this coming year, a new print map. We're pretty well set because of the grooming trackers. We think we know where all the trails are. But if you'll be opening a trail that's been closed, if you'll be adding a new trail, if you'll be closing a trail, let us know as soon as you can about any changes like that that should be reflected on the print map. New businesses opening and closing, any of that sort of thing. I'm also adding points of interest. So I've already added points of interest to the interactive map. You can see we have 1 point of interest in the whole state right now, which is the VAST office. So I'm hoping that clubs will let me know where we should put these little stars on the map. I'm thinking Vista points or picnic areas or clubhouses, that sort of thing that doesn't fall into one of these other categories of a business, but it's somewhere that you might want to plan a ride to. I don't think we should have a lot of these in any given area, or we won't be able to put them on the print map. Possibly on the print map, it'll just be a little star with a number next to it, and then we can have a list of them. Or there might just be a little star and the name. All it's going to have is a little short name. So think of a good quick way to describe what it is and tell me where it is, and we can get these onto the map. I think that we have some from a past effort, but I'm having trouble finding that data. So that's another thing to get to me over the summer before we get into printing our new map in the fall. All right, I think that's all I was going to cover, Matt.
Yep, I think you got it. One thing I was just going to jump in about, I'd seen on the chat, the safety committee was asking about the helicopter landing zone signs, which is something we may end up adding to the map as well as a layer. And we have the signs available for that as well. If anybody has areas that they feel would be a good zone to land helicopters for safety reasons, you know, to extract somebody from the woods that was hurt on a snowmobile, certainly work through the safety committee and try to get those as potentially approved sites. And it has to go through a whole process, but there's a process in place to do that.
And I can get that added to the signing guidelines document as one of those special sign programs. I'll get that put into there.
So, yep. So, yeah, so I think at this point, we'll hopefully everybody's jotted down any questions they might have, and we'll move into the little roundtable discussion time period, and we'll go till 8 o'clock or until the questions sort of dry up. And like I said, again, anybody that doesn't feel comfortable doing it in this format, certainly reach out to Ken or I later on. And we're going to try to keep the questions, you know, related to trail related stuff too, and not like about TMAs and stuff that maybe we know about, but maybe not, and we don't want to give wrong answers. So try to keep it to, you know, basic trail stuff, and sort of go from there.
Hey, Matt, this is Merritt. Could you just run those two deadlines for the equipment and aid and construction and aid again?
Yeah.
June what?
The equipment grant and aid is due in June 1st.
Uh-huh.
And the construction is June 30th.
30th. Okay, that's what I had written down. I just want to make sure.
Yep.
We have a couple raised hands. Mike Matasio.
Hey, how you doing, Ken? Actually, yeah, for you, on the intersection signs, I mean, they look really sweet and everything. They're really great. Either yourself or anyone that's on, have you come up with any universal solutions that actually keep them looking clean after you've had changes? It happens. Change happens even on the expensive signs. So I'm trying to avoid putting on blue painter's tape to cover up our services or those types of things. I was just wondering if anyone came up with anything good.
We can get the sign shop to print the same material as a decal to cover over what you want to cover over. So I'm not sure, some people may have experience with how well that sticks and everything, but it's the same material that's on there and you can just stick it on top so the colors should match.
Okay, so even including trail IDs and things like that.
Mhm.
Okay, great, thank you.
And then Stan had his hand raised.
Yeah, we have some bridges that we need to redo. And we just got quote for PT and it was absolute sticker shock. What are your thoughts on this, moving forward? I mean, I know we all want to go towards PT for, longer life bridges and ultimately should be more cost effective if we don't have to replace them as often, but that number was just absolutely staggering.
Yeah, a lot of clubs have reported the same thing to me, that it's A, it's hard to get, and B, if you can get it, it's pricey. I was talking to a club today. They said it had gone up like $1. I think they said maybe $1 per board foot since March when they priced it already or something. And so I guess if you really feel it needs to be pressure treated, it's going to be, unfortunately, I think it's going to be the cost of doing business. I don't foresee the prices going down, but
Well,
maybe.
there's the challenge is that, if you try to follow construction, I mean, if anybody's doing anything, I mean, we built a garage this fall and we need to get some more 7/16 OSB and it's $42 a sheet. And this fall when we got it originally was 17. And PT, even last year, we did a bridge, and when we submitted our grant application, the quote that we'd gotten for the material was $900, and then when we got the PT in October, it was $1,500 when we actually got the material. And we've got 3 bridges that total 130 feet of deck, and the quote for the PT was $12,500.
I don't know if everybody's seen the chat. There are some suggestions coming in there. W Rails, Northwest Riders likes to use the recycled guardrails and getting a hemlock from a local mill.
Yeah, well, the hemlock, but yeah, I mean, I felt that there was a kind of a direction from VAST to transition from hemlock to PT because of the longevity. And I mean, the hemlock is always an option, which we would go with, but I mean, I thought at the direction of VAST, we wanted to go more towards the PT so that we didn't have to replace them as often. And those guardrails, has anybody come up with, I know there was a question about whether or not they were the engineering on it as to whether or not they were truly safe.
They have provided a plan for us using our H piles to use them. So we do have a plan for use if you use the H piles, how many are needed at different spans that the Wolf Engineering did for us. I know some of those have been hard to get at different times as well, but depending on their availability. But yeah, a few clubs have used them. I know some clubs love them, like the Franklin County clubs love them. I know one of the clubs down in Braintree area used them for some big bridges. They liked them. I've had a few other clubs use them, and they felt like it was hard to maneuver them and get them to lay flat because it's used guardrails. So sometimes they've been hit and they're bent a little, trying to get them to lay flat. And then you have to typically haul in gravel or some material and dump in on top of them, and which in the woods is hard to do. I guess sometimes you can take an excavator in and find some woods dirt, but it's not ideal for what you're trying to do there. You have to lay filter fabric on them and do it that way. So
if you gotta go in and add an additional beam or two and pour abutments for it, I mean, that's kind of gonna offset your savings on the deck material.
Yeah, I mean, my honest thought, and like I said, I'm not that we have, this abundance of money and we want to, throw it away, but I think the clubs that really need to put on some PT on some of the bigger bridges, we're gonna have to, take it in the short, so to speak, and pay the price and get them done. I think, unfortunately, I think it's what we're gonna have to do. If there's stuff that can be, I keep saying this, we can patch it up for a year, great, but I don't know as the prices are gonna go down. I think once they're getting that for this PT lumber, they're gonna continue to get it if they know they can get it. I don't know. That's my thought.
I mean, I think it's supply and demand. Right now, the demand is outpacing the supply as it is on so many materials, including, I mean, steel prices have more than doubled since January, and there's shortages on raw materials. So like guys that use screws, they're going to be hard to get this summer. And the price is going up, but all those materials are in short supply right now. And putting it off, like, that's what we looked at that idea, can we put this off for a year? But one of them is absolutely can't. And the other two, I think we'd have to do 50% or more replacement just to, to get them serviceable and get them safe. And like I said, the hemlock is certainly an option. I mean, we've built bridges forever with rough sawn hemlock, 2 or 3 inches thick, but we found that 10 years was probably on the outside of their life expectancy.
Right. I know at one point I'd seen some plans, and maybe Ken can speak to this better, I don't know. On the LVRT, there was talk of using like tamarack lumber too, and I don't know, not that there's a ton of tamarack necessarily, but
yeah, it should last a little longer than hemlock, not necessarily a lot longer, but it would be you'd have to talk to your local mill and see if you can get it be more expensive than hemlock, special order kind of a deal. We do have Andy from Saxon Hill had his hand up.
I had a question on permitting. Is permitting required to be complete by the deadline of the project submission, or is that permitting complete by the time of construction?
The permits, it's good to have them, with the original application. But if you can't, I mean, a lot of times you're trying to get the application in to meet the deadline and you're reaching out to, Extreme Alt or whoever and going through the permit process. So certainly that can be followed up with later, as long as I know you're working on it. I'm just not going to reimburse the club until I see the permit piece is done. And obviously you want it done before you do the work, so the work's done according to the permit. But yeah, it's certainly sometimes the cart gets a little before the horse once in a while. So
yeah, we've just had issues with serviceability from our local stream banks engineer. I mean, he doesn't return calls or emails, so we're kind of stymied sometimes. So I'd like to be able to have more time to, get them out there and work together.
Yeah. Yeah. I know sometimes they get really busy and they're just pulled a lot of different directions, and yeah, some are definitely better about it than others for sure.
Yeah. We wait months, and this is new. This is not, in the past, we worked with these guys 20 years ago and they've been great, but lately it's not so good. So, all right, thanks.
I'm trying to look through chat if we've missed any questions. If we've missed you, maybe just speak up or ask again.
I've been trying to run through the chat and do a few here, but yeah, I was looking too.
Hey, Matt, it's Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Rescue granting question. Are there any examples of that being applied? Is it specific to rescue agencies? The reason I was asking, I was just curious if a club was involved with a piece of equipment to support what was going on.
Yeah, we haven't done any rescue equipment grants in actually a number of years. And it's funny, I was gonna cover that, and then I'm like, well, we haven't done any in a long time, so I sort of skipped over it this time. It's funny you brought it up. I do know, I think down near Tweed Valley, I'd been emailing with the fire and rescue down there. And maybe somebody at the club can speak more. They were sort of looking into it. But yeah, the clubs are involved. We like to see the clubs, the grant goes through the club. So the club kind of has to be involved with the local rescue squad, because we will pay the money to the club. And then they, like I said, in turn work with the rescue squad. And, a lot of times it's when somebody in the club is on the local rescue. That happens a lot. We haven't done many lately, which I think a lot of the rescue, and some of you that are first responders can probably speak to this. A lot of them are going out and getting their own equipment with some other different grants. I know there's a lot of different grant programs out there. So they've been sort of doing their own thing, and they've been covering the need, but which has been good. We've been reaping the benefits of that. But we did do a lot of the grants years ago. So we've put a lot of equipment out there many years ago, 12 to 15 years ago, for a lot of different rescue squads. But it's certainly tapered off, but it is still available. So
Okay, great,
I
thanks.
don't know if that answered your question. Hopefully.
Yeah, no, it did. I was just curious, there's of how something like that would be configured. You mentioned there's people that on clubs or in clubs that might be on something that's local as far as rescue, and whether or not it was specific to a power unit that had to do with a fire department or ambulance service, or if it was something that was a piece of equipment like an attachment that might be staged at a club's, for example, grooming barn or shelter or clubhouse, that type of thing, or a combination of a piece like something that might even be a power unit like an ATV, but it was also modified for the purpose of being used by the fire department, that type of thing. So you see rare examples like across the country sometimes of someone who does something. I was just curious if anyone did something like that around here.
Yeah, it's funny. Most of the stuff I've seen,
Thanks.
we haven't done grants for them, but what I've seen most of them recently have is like a UTV with tracks, and it has wheels in the summer. I think they leave the tracks on a lot because it's so all terrain. It actually works well, and they have the I'm going to use the incorrect terminology here, but like the basket, so to speak, or the gurney or whatever you would put the patient on is strapped in the back. Like we've gone away from like the little trailers and stuff they used to have. Those are like a thing.
They have like a Stokes mount on the back type of thing.
Yeah, that's what I've seen. Because we used to do like the rescue boggins and all that, and I think that stuff's sort of gone by the wayside. It's old technology.
And they're pretty limited too. You don't want to be carried around like in that cube on the side of the helicopter in MASH. It's like that type of thing.
Right.
But no, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
I'll just reiterate what you said. That's what's happening up here with a lot of fire departments in Orleans County is they're going for the UTV all seasons option. So we haven't really, snowmobile's been off the table. And of course the snowmobile club's not really going to be buying a UTV, but we did donate a Stokes basket to our local fire department last year. I say last year, this past season. So that's an option, but obviously it doesn't really qualify for a rescue grant per se.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, Mike, Grafton Fire and Rescue bought a Polaris Ranger about 10 years ago, and we did a vast grant for the tracks on it. And that does about 2 snowmobile related calls per year in the winter with the tracks that were grant funded.
Is it specific to your club's coverage area or specific to the fire department's coverage area?
It applies for both. Our
Okay.
fire and rescue covers the same territory that our snowmobile club does. And our groomer shed is right across the road from the fire department.
Oh, nice. All right, thanks,
It's
Ivor.
all stored at the fire department, but it all applies when we have a call. That we grab whatever we have for resources.
Sweet. Sounds great. Thanks.
Hey, Matt,
Yes.
do you by any chance know what kind of equipment they use down in Mount Holly at that lady who hit the pole there?
I don't know. I'm not sure what they did use.
Okay, just wondering.
I don't know if there's anybody on from
Mount Holly, that would be.
Mount Holly that may know that. I'm not sure.
I was at the Maidstone crash, and Gorham came over from New Hampshire, and like you were saying, and Roger was suggesting, they did have the modified UTV that loaded a firm litter basket in the rear, and so that seems to be the trend.
Chester did a grant several years ago and we got the, that rescue sleigh that's enclosed. It's got the cover on it, so they're out of the weather. And we also got a snowmobile, and we worked in conjunction with Vast, and then the club donated a portion of it. And then I think it was the rescue squad, they got funding as well. And they have since replaced the sled with a UTV on tracks. They keep it at the fire station. So they cover certainly everything that Chester grooms, but they've also been called out to assist with other surrounding fire departments. So it gets quite a bit of use.
Hey, Ken, Mike,
Go ahead.
do you know what the refresh rate is on the trails on the A&R site as far as the updates?
Usually just once in the fall. It's the 911 folks. They don't
Okay.
seem to want it very often, but so the data that's on there is fairly old right now.
Okay, so they feed it, but it has to go to them first.
Yeah, it's just bringing in the 911 layer somehow. We don't send it to the geographic information folks because we don't want it to be downloadable. But it, as part of that layer, it gets into there. So you can go to the 911 map also. If you just want to look at landowners and addresses, especially, the 911 viewer is easier for that because that's already loaded on there. And the trails are on there automatically as well.
Yeah, their stat views are pretty good too on the 911 side. Comes good. And interesting, when you mentioned the A&R thing and that YouTube presentation, I don't know if it's in it, but we found it useful. We can add our bridges to our A&R map and then save it on their server. So you can actually, you can couple your bridges with the landowner information too, which is kind of a neat view.
Yeah, you can really do a lot with that. It's helps if you already know what you want to do, but it's a good resource the state has provided.
Yeah, that's a learning curve. Thanks.
Yeah, for Merritt, I don't know if he saw the chat, but Mike Coleman said he thought that Ludlow responded to the crash in Mount Holly with a UTV is what he thought. So,
oh, I knew there was another club involved. Yeah. But when we had our county meeting, I asked Kurt about it. He wasn't quite sure. He wasn't really involved with that incident.
are there any more burning questions that anybody has?
I'm guessing that no one else from our club is on on tonight for Bird's Eye.
Hey, while I have you, Merritt, who is doing the log sheets for you guys this year for grooming?
Andrew. Oh gosh, he's our club president, our groomer, and everything else. Andrew Fitzgerald.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to think. I think he did send me some. I was missing some towards the end of the season, I think still. That's why I was thinking of it, but
I can.
I can reach out to him, Merritt, anyway. That's fine. Just thought of it while we
Yeah,
had a little dull moment here. So
yeah.
I just had a question asking about in the chat if I can explain the bridge requirements from A&R. I don't know as I can, but I can give a really rough summary. Typically, they want to see it above any high water mark, which varies from stream to river. There's charts and maps and engineering studies and hydrology studies that dictate a lot of that. And so basically they know that sort of information when they look at it. Also, like floodplains are a big issue. If you're building a bridge in a floodplain, which a lot of areas along the river, especially like agricultural fields or things like that, are floodplains. So that's obviously an issue as well with local zoning, with FEMA. There's a lot to it. A lot of times it comes down to more the local zoning and the local requirements that are actually a little more stringent. And if you can meet those requirements, usually the state is happy. That's sort of been what we found recently. But they really want the bridge to obviously not impact floodwaters and make them divert a different way or back them up the river or affect somebody else downriver. So there's a lot that goes into that. I don't know if that really answers the question, but they're definitely engineers and they know a lot more about it than I do. So, and then you're asking about the bridge agreement forms. So the bridge agreement form is basically a form that goes with any bridge. So we're trying to protect the vast investment in the bridge. If what's happened in the past and what we're trying to avoid is the landowner says, yes, you can put a trail on my property, and we build a bridge for them. And then 2 years later, a year later, they say, okay, I don't want you on my property anymore, but I want to keep the bridge because it allows me access to the other side of the stream with my tractor or whatever. That's what we're trying to avoid. So what the bridge agreement does is it basically, before we invest money in the bridge, it clearly determines what's going to happen to that bridge if VAST doesn't use it anymore. So either the landowner can buy the bridge from us if they want at whatever the market value is, or we can go in and remove the bridge. And if it's a really small bridge, which some of them are, like over a little ditch or something, and maybe the landowner wants it and it's going to be more work to remove the bridge than to just leave it there, they can buy the bridge for $1. I mean, the dollar is just a legal term. They don't actually give there's no money that transfers hands. But in doing so, they accept the liability. That's the bottom part of the form. They're saying, yep, I'm going to buy the bridge and I'm responsible for it at this point. So if it, rolls downstream in a flood and, hits somebody's car, then it's their deal. They're not coming to VAST saying, well, what year bridge did this damage? Or if somebody goes over it with a horse or a four-wheel drive truck and breaks through it and says, well, we didn't maintain the bridge, it's not our deal, it's the landowner. And as I mentioned earlier in this seminar, one of the issues we've run into with the bridge agreement forms is some landowners own the bridge and we just help maintain it, put the decking on it because we're the ones wearing it out with our studs and our carbides on the machines. So, they don't really have a use for the bridge necessarily right now. So they would probably just have the steel sitting there with it barricaded off. But since we're using it, it's decked, so we maintain the bridge. The agreements don't really fit that scenario. So we're trying to work to make it so it fits every scenario, like a one size fits all if we can, which is difficult. There's weird circumstances everywhere with some of the bridges we cross. But essentially, the bridge agreement form protects vast investment in the bridge and determines who's going to be liable for it down the road.
Unless you're the town of Duxbury.
Yes, unless you're the town of Duxbury. And then the bridge ferry just brought the bridge in there, and nobody knows how it got there, and it's magic. It's magical. Magical.
He will do. Yeah.
Yeah. Magical. So. Well, if I don't see a lot of questions popping up, so I guess if there's not a lot more, we can probably call it quits and let everybody get on with their evening. There's still a little bit of daylight left, so you can go out and rake some more leaves or something. But
Hey, Matt, or Kenny, just when you guys come out with the electronic, because I'm interested in that, I think it's easier on our end and I know it's going to be easier on your end for all the applications. Will we be able to, will you send us a version of that, or will that be the new downloadable from the VAST site?
I would think we could send you a version of it somehow. The way it's working right now, which has been a little bit of a hiccup for some folks, like they were thinking like online, it was a form they had to get offline. There's not actually a form per se. What it does is when folks enter the data, it actually kicks it into a database for us, and then we can export all that like into an Excel spreadsheet and then manipulate the data and do what we want with it. It's also still in our database, so we can go do searches in there, and it's just a lot nicer to have it all in there. Like currently, the way it works, when I get a construction grant aid application or any application, I read through everything, and I have to sit there and manually enter it in an Excel spreadsheet. And when you get 130, 40, 50 construction projects alone, I mean, that takes weeks to do, really, amongst everything else. And frankly, it's boring. It's really boring work. Whereas everybody's writing all that information down, they can type it and it's already there, and then it's easier. I'm honestly going to be able to get back to clubs a lot quicker probably with the acknowledgement forms and everything than I do right now, because I don't have to take a week and a half at 80 hours of time trying to enter all that and get all that done. So, so I think with inputting it into the database, there should be a way that we can spit something back out that Cerrillo Club can keep a copy for their records. I know like a couple people on the financial analysis actually emailed it to me. They say PDF. I think Cole Spawn Sledders did that, as a matter of fact, was one of the clubs that saved it as a PDF and sent it to me just to make sure I had it. So I would assume we'd be able to do the same thing for in the database for the construction grants or any other forms that are done that way.
Jeff, are you looking for, so you have it for your records, or are you more wanting to like know the questions ahead of time so you can?
Well, what I'm looking for, Matt, is I believe I'm sorry, Ken, is Matt and I had talked about this, but to make it easier on you guys, and so we're all filling out one form, and then basically it's just, I believe you guys just integrating it into your system. And like we do a lot on the Excel forms, and we can come up with our own format, and that may even help you on your end if we put it in the same line items. But if you have an actual form that you send us, and then I fill that out with all my information on my projects, and then I email it back to Matt or you, and then you guys can just take it and put it into your system. That's like integrated, you know.
Yeah, it'll be even, I don't know if you did the financial analysis form for your club, but it's even more direct than that. So it's an online form that you're entering the data into, and it will go directly into our database.
Okay. And but that's not the form right now. If I click on the VAST, that's,
no,
I'm getting a PDF, right?
You're seeing last year's PDF.
Exactly. So I guess my question is, I'm getting ready. I'm approaching some of these projects now, pictures wise. I'm trying to be much more thorough this year. And I would like to get them done earlier than later for some of our projects. So I'm just wondering when that would be available and if it's something you guys could kick out to us.
It should be soon. It's basically the same questions. So if you have all the information for that PDF form typed in a spreadsheet or something, you should be able to cut and paste most of that into the online form.
Okay, great.
I can't promise when it will be ready.
Well, I don't see much more for questions popping up. So I would say if we want to call this the conclusion of our first spring construction seminar, I'm going to say we do that. And again, if anybody has any follow-up questions or something you think about at 2 a.m. this morning, please don't call me then, but call me in the morning, like later. And certainly reach out via email or phone with any questions that you think of, out of the seminar here. A lot of times we start thinking about things a little more and processing it and come up with some questions. So certainly do that. I want to thank everybody for coming. I know this is a different format, a little struggle for many of you. So I appreciate everyone jumping on and, taking the time to do this. It was actually a pretty nice evening, and you gave it up to spend it on the computer with us. So
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you
Yes,
all for
thank
what
you.
you do for holding the trails together. And it was a good winter, and I appreciate all the effort everybody put in. It wouldn't be there without all of you. So thank you all.
Matt and Ken, great job.
Well, enjoy the night, everyone. Take
Okay,
care.
bye-bye.
Be well.
Yep, bye.